Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smart Sourcing Summit webinar series 3, titled Hyper Collaboration, the New Normal. Welcome aboard and good evening. Thank you for spending some time. Right. Good evening, and thank you for joining us today. First and foremost, before we proceed, I would like to inform you that your microphones has been muted and your video has been turned off. So if you have any questions, please post your questions into the Q&A section that you find with a question mark on your screen, and we will address the questions as you raise it up. Yeah. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the chair for the Smart Sourcing Summit webinar series, Mr. Raymond Davidas. Over to you, Raymond.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the SSS, or the Smart Sourcing Committee in Outsourcing Malaysia, we welcome you this evening. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for spending this first day of September with us, with some very esteemed panelists that we have gathered, some young, some not so young, but plenty and wealth of experience to be shared. And once again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you. Just a little bit of background of the topic we selected. I think if you've been following us, the topic for the last 3 SSS, a lot of our discussion centered around work from home, leadership in times of crisis, digital in terms of crisis. So we thought we'd take something a little bit different from the norm, the new norm rather. And I was very interested that I was reading this article that was mentioned that the hyper collaboration is going to be the new norm. No longer will businesses grow organically, but it appears that there is this new sort of energy between organizations that will feed off each other. And that's going to be the new strength, and that's going to be the new impetus for growth. So I thought it would be a very interesting topic to talk about, whether that it would work in Malaysia, whether it would work in the Asian context, whether hyper collaboration can work. In some cases, a lot of the environment that we work in does not allow for this collaboration. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity, and the committee thought it'd be a good opportunity to get a few people to talk about this and debate on this whole topic of hyper collaboration. And the first person came to mind was Michael, and Michael being a senior person in the organization, we thought that he would be able to carry through this entire debate and discussion. So without further ado, I don't want to take the limelight away from Michael, but Michael, it's a pleasure to have you on board and together with all the esteemed panelists here, and really wish you all the best for the next 1 hour. And I hope you have fun, and I hope that we have fun as well. Thank you very much, and over to you, Michael.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Raymond, so much. Guys, it's really good to be back. Nice to see so many familiar faces, and some new faces as well. Times are trying. We are going through tough times right now. When I came back to Malaysia in 2012, it was the boom time. The whole smart sourcing, the BPO industry boomed. When I was in MDEC, we took that organization, we took that industry from a $3.5 billion industry to a $18 billion industry, supported by many of my friends here and many of the people out there. That business grew, and Malaysia was ranked 3rd in the world for shared services and what we had accomplished, after China and India. And we were ranked so high. Things have changed. I'm not saying that it's bad, but the MCO has brought a hard reset. Many things that we wanted to do is now not optional anymore. This ability to say work from home is not optional anymore. Companies have to be able to take it in and administer it. New ways of doing business, allowing people to work from home, allowing people to work on the road, the use of the internet and technology, the use of innovation, all this has come along, and it's not optional anymore. It is a hard reset, and we are forced to go back in to make and understand how to implement these changes. The question this evening is really about how is this impacting us? There's this term used, hyper collaboration. We know that collaboration is important. When customers buy from companies, the only reason customers buy from companies is based on value. If a company can provide value, then people will buy from you. And companies have in the past been going off and creating value, building value, and delivering value. Today, the question really is, can you do it alone? If you want to work with your partners in the marketplace, who are your partners? How important is technology and innovation to you moving forward? In Malaysia, SSO and shared services, we used to bring people in from all over the region. Now, our borders are not open. We need to figure out how to deliver these same services using people based in our countries. How will technology help you? How will the network of friends and partners that you have around the world, how will they help you? Although you might have the best technology and the best partners, if you don't have a global collaboration of network of people that you deal with, that is also going to be tough. So today we've got great people here. We've got very senior people, we've got young people, we've got innovative people, we've got government representatives, and we've got stalwarts of the industry all here to talk about stuff. The way we're going to do this, I'm going to pass this around and ask each of our panel members to introduce themselves very briefly to you, so you get to see their faces and you know who you're talking to. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to have a couple of rounds of discussions with each of the panelists about various topics. Each one was brought in because they bring in very significant value into what we're trying to impart today. What we will do is we will try to spend this in the next 1 hour. And in the last 30 minutes, if you guys have got questions and you'd like to put forward some discussion points, or if you disagree with ideas, you're more than welcome to bring that up. So keep your questions to the last 30 minutes, and we'll open it up and we will hear from you guys. Yeah. So I'm Michael Warren. I'm a retired golfer. So I sit at home and I enjoy myself and have a lot of fun. And I just stir the pot from time to time. Yeah. So let me pass this around to the various people in the room today. So starting off, I'd like to pass to Dato' Lim Han Boon, who's the founder of Envo BPO Services, but he's a lot more than that. Dato' Lim, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Michael. And I would like to also thank Outsourcing Malaysia for organizing this webinar during this RMCO period. And of course, I also would like to thank all the participants who are attending this webinar. Just let me introduce a little bit about myself. I'm a chartered accountant by profession, and I became an entrepreneur after founding Envo BPO in 2009. So when I started Envo BPO, I joined Outsourcing Malaysia, and initially I was elected as the committee member, and I was in the committee until 2016, where I was elected as the treasurer for 2 terms, 2016 and 2017. And currently I'm the advisor to Outsourcing Malaysia. And on top of that, I am a senior independent director of Top Glove. I'm sure you've heard of Top Glove. It's currently the largest glove manufacturer for nitrile glove, latex glove, surgical glove, and currently is ranked number 2 by market capitalization after Maybank in Bursa, Malaysia. And I will talk about the collaboration aspect in Top Glove also later on. And I'm also the independent non-executive director of LBS Bina Group Berhad, a property developer listed in the main board of Bursa Malaysia Securities Berhad. And on top of that, I'm also a director of Kenchan High School. I'm sure you heard of Kenchan High School, private Chinese school, which is 112 years old, located along the Federal Highway. In the past, it was known as a Kenchan Girls' School. So now it's Kenchan High School. So we'll discuss more about the collaboration later on. Over to you, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dato'. Thanks so much. Pass it on to Johari Mustafa, who's the CEO of Forest Interactive. Johari is the poster boy of Malaysian investments. He's done very well for himself, for the company, and for the country. He's represented us very well on the international stage, a homegrown Malaysian company that has grown to many countries around the world. Johari, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Michael, for the kind introduction. Hello, everyone. And it's always an honor to represent as one of the panelists. So my name is Johari Mustafa. I'm the CEO of Forest Interactive. We started the company about 14 years ago. Purpose was to provide content services to the mobile operators. So content in itself means, the traditional OTPs or TAC requests. Back then, SMS was an important element in the channel of communication. So if you're wondering what that means, you're probably getting one of these 2FA or two-factor authentication messages on your phone whenever you make an online payment. So today that's morphed into your smartphone and also much more other content. So we've worked closely with 63 mobile operators across 36 countries, 14 of which we've built a physical presence in. And locally here in Malaysia, we do a lot of engagement with a few of the government agencies, inclusive of MEMDEC, MATRADE, and a few others in the areas surrounding games, tech education, startups, as well as some public-private initiatives. So I advise an association called Malaysian Mobile Tech Association, as well as some of these committees under MDEC for their mentors on startups, as well as serve as a council member here on PCOM. Over to you, Michael.
Fantastic, thank you. And Johari is not as young as he looks. I mean, he always looks young, and every time I see him, he looks young. But he's got a lot of years of experience behind him. To an old friend, Bun Sri Somchit, Chief Conceptualist of Xtrategize. I've always known her as the lady who brought AMD back to Malaysia. Bun Sri is a great friend from Penang. She's a person I recall years ago when we spoke on stage with Lim Guan Eng. She spoke about how somebody in Penang farts. You can hear them across the other side of the island. That's Bun Sri for you. Bun Sri, introduce yourself.
First of all, thank you, Michael, for that introduction. That was a very interesting introduction. And you stole my tagline. I was going to tell everybody I'm not calling in from Thailand, but from Penang, and you already stole that from me. So, I also want to thank Raymond for acknowledging me and Lillian as the youngest people on this panel. Okay, that's really cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so anyway, hi, my name is Bun Sri Somchit, and I'm actually based in Penang. I am Malaysian. Very proud to be Malaysian, okay. I come with about 30 years of corporate experience, and in 2016, I decided that I should retire, but it didn't work out as planned. I ended up starting my own company, and we've been kind of busy ever since. And you guys must be wondering why, with the company that I've started up, which is Learning and Development, why am I even here talking about shared services? Because 19 years of my life was actually running AMD Global Services and AMD's only shared services around the world. And I'll talk about that later. But I'm really excited to be here and hopefully share some of the experiences that I have for collaboration or hyper collaboration or whatever you may call it today. Thank you. Back to you, Michael.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bun Sri. The Power Ladies of Penang. Here's another power lady, Miss Lu Lilian, a very dear friend who runs Invest Penang. She has been very instrumental in the whole infrastructure up north. And some years ago, she decided to step back from the commercial world and join and help the government to grow Penang. And she's done very, very well. Lilian, would you like to introduce yourself? Dato' Lilian, sorry. Yeah?
Thank you, Michael, and thank you very much for all that compliments and to Bun Sri as well. for acknowledging both of us as the youngest in the group. Yes, so yeah, I'm the CEO of Invest Penang, and like what Michael said, before joining Invest Penang in 2010, I had worked for about 20 years in the private sector, basically primarily in manufacturing. Now, Invest Penang is the point of contact for investment into Penang. So we work with the FDI, we work with the local businesses, the SMEs, the entrepreneurs, the GBS, the startups. So we are like the state equivalent of MIDA, MDEC, Magic, Talent Corp, SME Corp. So we, as the Chinese Hokkien says, we bao semua. We are a one-stop center for all. Penang is the Silicon Valley of the East. We are the best foodie island. We are the 8th island that you must visit before you die. And we are the destination of choice for investment, work, live and play. So I will talk about what makes us that destination of choice in a bit. Thank you again.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dato. The final member of our panel is Justin Ong. Justin is the Malaysian Innovation Leader from Deloitte Malaysia. Justin he's been a partner for Deloitte, and he's been with the Big Four in several other capacities before. He brings a lot of experience. Today, he runs the innovation and regulatory practice, risk practice in Malaysia. He works across the region, and specific area of interest is digital finance, which we will be talking a bit about more. Justin, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me around. I'm Justin Ong. Hi, everyone. Penangite by origin. I grew up in Penang, lived there for about 20 years, then moved to Singapore to work, a returning Malaysian back at KL, right? So there's always a spot in me about Penang, right? So in my current role, I'm the innovation officer for Deloitte Malaysia in helping many of my clients driving their digital and transformation services. I think in the recent year, a lot of my clients have having a lot of needs when it comes to digital adoption, cognitive data analytics, RPA. So I do all sorts of stuff to help the clients during this trying time, right? As Michael said, I think we'll share a bit more in terms of how Deloitte has embarked on shared service center concept in Kuala Lumpur, and also some of the interesting collaboration idea that we've seen in the banking space, how that can be potentially be adopted by some of you in their respective industry. All right, back to you, Michael.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Justin. Thanks. So let's jump into the panel sessions. I'm not going to. We are conscious of time, so we will stay within our limits so that we can give the people in the public more of a chance to ask questions. I'm going to start off with Dato' Lim. Dato' Lim, can you talk a bit about your current company, Envo BPO? This is a SSS summit, a shared services summit. You started Envo BPO as a shared service and outsourcing company. Talk to us about what's working in Malaysia, the types of services and customers you have, and talk a bit about the pandemic. I mean, we're going through the pandemic right now. How has the pandemic affected your business?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yes, I founded Envo BPO in 2009, like I mentioned just now. And Envo BPO is a professional business process outsourcing company, which is business process outsourcing BPO, and they are specializing in the business of contact centers. And currently, my son, Jeremy Lim, who's a lawyer by profession, he took over the company since 2016. And he's now spearheading the company with about 300 employees, assisting clients from various industries around the world. And our clients include multinational companies, embassies, government embassy, telecommunication company, banking, insurance company, direct mailing company, food delivery platform companies, there's a small and medium-sized companies, and even beauty sectors, both locally and around the world. And our service includes telemarketing, customer support, lead generation, and customer survey, customer telesales, and all that. And currently, we have expanded into human resource as well as IT outsourcing. Now, our motto is do what you do best and outsource the rest. So just do what you do best and outsource the rest. And a little bit about our mission. Our mission is to educate companies to outsource their non-core activities, and to provide quality services to our clients through our dedicated staff. And of course, our vision is to revolutionize the concept of outsourcing and to be your one-stop preferred outsourcing partners. Now, talking about the pandemic, when the pandemic MCO was announced by the Prime Ministers, I think all of us, including many other companies, it has to work in a new way. So during that period, because some of our customers are essential services and some are not. So for essential services, you can work from office, but for non-essential, we have to work from home. So that is where we have to accommodate ourselves, our agent, we train our agent to actually work from home. And there are a lot of challenges in managing them remotely, but we are able to overcome all that, and we are lucky that our foundation is strong and we are able to overcome the setback, and at the moment we are back to normal. Now, talking about the benefit of working from home, we are able to now get in more customers, more clients, whereby they are now having their customers, their call center in area where they are hit by pandemic. So now they can move to our place here in Malaysia. And in the recruitment aspect, we can now actually get more of our agents who are actually from outstation, so long as they have got their desktop, their laptop, and internet support. And I must say that in terms of collaboration, we are actually able to collaborate during this RMCO period, collaborate with IT companies whereby they have to work, we work together for them to help our client to work from home. And one other area is we are also able to work with a company that is specializing in co-working space. So co-working space is something that we have embarked into, whereby we don't have to incur capex, and we are able to use their space for our services to support our clients. You know,
that's a question. Local versus foreign. How many local, how many foreign do you have?
Oh, okay. Currently, we have customers, clients from UK.
Not clients, staff.
Oh, okay. As far as staff is concerned, majority of them are local staff. So we don't use foreigner that much because luckily also because at the moment we can bring them back to Malaysia. Yeah. So a majority of them are actually local staff. You know.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think one more thing is I want to mention here, Michael, is that the Ministry of Health has able to contain the pandemic currently with single-digit cases, and a lot of our clients, whereby their call center in overseas places like Philippines, UK, India is another place where they can actually move the call center to Malaysia. So now we are talking to them to actually move some of their call center to Malaysia.
Third question, what have you seen as the biggest challenge during this pandemic period? Biggest challenge for you as a business? And the other aspect is collaboration with staff. Because your people are all at home and people are not in the office and all that stuff. So what are these? What are your biggest challenges right now?
Okay, I think when we first started, when the MCO was announced, I think that is the biggest challenge at that point in time, of course, is how to reorganize ourselves. Because our agent, a lot of them couldn't come to office to work. So we have to start getting them to work from home, and then renting PC, getting them to internet facilities and all that. So I think initially it was very tough, and then also to monitor them because, they are working from home, you have to monitor their attendance, and then also the bonding, the communication. But we are able to overcome all that. I think luckily with the help of my son, I think we are able to overcome all that. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Thanks, Dato. Let me just move on to Justin. Justin from Deloitte. Justin, you've got a shared service or BPO practice in Malaysia as well. In fact, I was fortunate to come along in 2016. I think I launched that center for you when I was
for officiating it. Thanks for officiating it.
And I think that was supposed to be a regional center for finance and tax or something. And I'm just curious to understand, how has that center done? What are you guys doing there? And how are you coping with the pandemic right now?
Great. Thanks. And thanks once again for officiating our event. I think couple of years ago. I think it's about 4 or 5 years ago, right, Michael?
2016, I think.
Yeah. Right. I think in a financial services firm setup, I think you don't see many of the accounting firm or law firm has a BPO sort of setup, right? I think we are, in a way, we see ourselves as the forefronts when it comes to that. So we started this idea about 4 to 5 years ago, right? So for those of you who may not know Deloitte well, I think we are a global organization, right? We probably claim that we are #1 accounting firm by the measurement of our annual turnover, 46 billion USD a year, right? So from a capacity wise, I think we have about 300,000 headcount with slightly more than 150 country across 700 office, right? So it was when we molded an idea to have the BPO set up in Malaysia, right? I think it was quite an interesting fight against some of these neighboring country, right? A friendly neighbor country like Manila, right? Who always claim that they got better talents, they got better cost effectiveness agenda and stuff like that, right? Obviously, we need to put up with India, our friends from China as well. But after going through the business case and evaluation, the firm decided to set up part of the shared service center locally in Kuala Lumpur, servicing the Southeast Asia region, right? So as Michael rightly pointed out, the initial idea for the BPO only focused on three things. One is on finance, second is on HR, right? Third is on IT, right? So that's the original setup. I think we have initial count slightly less than 100 people, 4 to 5 years back. I'm very proud to say that I think currently we have grown to a size about 400. By 2023, we have an aspiration to bring it up to a number that's close to 1,000, right? From the original setup that's cover HR, finance and IT, we have extended it across the business unit, right? So, and for those of you know the type of services that we offer, we offer auditing services, we offer some form of tax services and consulting services, right? So we are building the delivery team in KL. So those are our front line, those are our business unit delivering work outside Malaysia by using Malaysia talent. Does it make sense, right? So think about certain risk areas that we have a whole bunch of internal auditors, we have a whole bunch of IT auditors, we have a whole bunch of cybersecurity folks, right? Instead of deploying them and employing them in each of the locations that we have, we are actually employing them centrally in KL. But these people can then support the services from across the region. So we see that there are a lot of there are lots of advantages, right? Number one is really about harmonizing and standardizing the delivery quality to a client. The second one is obviously the cost incentive, right? That our member firm would enjoy by deploying resources from Kuala Lumpur, right? So, and the other success story that I want to share is also the treasury, the regional hub that we set up in KL, right? 4 to 5 years back, you could sort of imagine that in Southeast Asia we have about close to 10 country, close to 30 office, right? And you could imagine that for professional services firm to have a clear visibility in the amount of cash that we have on a daily basis is crucial, right? Because it's all about capital management, it's all about working capital management, it's all about cash management, it's all about managing your account payable and account receivable, right? That's all I'm matching, right? In the past, we potentially has a bit low visibility in terms of amount of cash that we have regionally, right? So once we start the cash pooling concept locally in KL, so it actually optimizes the usage of cash a lot more, right? It helps us to harmonize the amount of bank account, right? So if you imagine you will let everyone else, all the branches to have their own bank account, at any single point, it's actually very hard to gauge the amount of cash that you have, right? So I think this is another success story that we have by setting a regional treasury center locally in KL, that it enables us to manage our working capital a lot more effectively.
Justin, right. A question. During the pandemic, some industries have picked up, done very well. I mean, the healthcare industry is hiring, e-commerce, logistics, but the banking sector, the finance sector, I thought was going through a global crash, and yet you seem to be picking up business and hiring people and still growing. Is that true?
Yep. I think on the hiring front, honestly, I think we are currently entering into the 4th month of the financial year, right? So we start to see some recovery. I mean, the recovery is sharper than what we originally expected, right? For financial services industry, if last week was the earning announcement months or earning announcement week, right? Maybank announced that their profit for second quarter has dropped by more than 50%, right? From about 1.9 billion to about slightly less than a billion, right? So I think we start to see more impact to the financial services sector, right? Mainly from 3 perspectives, right? One is really on the moratorium losses. Okay, so that actually hit some of the banks a lot. I think some of the banks publicly say that, like Maybank, there are moratorium losses by giving convenience to the borrower. The group is incurring close to 1 billion losses on higher purchase portfolio alone, right? So that's one is on moratorium. Second one is a default from a borrowers. As you can imagine that if we hit certain industry like airlines, like hotel, hospitality, mall operator, etc., banks will start to see some deteriorations in the repayment ability of the borrowers, right? So that will trigger some form of impairment when it comes to the loan perspective. The third one is really about the decline in interest rate. I mean, how do banks cari makan, right? By charging us some form of interest rate. If interest rate is getting lower and lower, it actually hurt their books when it comes to loan, right? So I think they are hit left, right, center when it comes to these 3 factors here.
But it's just interesting that you are still growing. That's good. So let me come back to this. So Datuk Lim spoke about MVO BPO and what he was doing in Malaysia, and how his business continues to grow with local resources. Justin from Deloitte, his center in PJ, near Taman Tun, they support multiple countries across Southeast Asia, and they are growing. They're still growing. I mean, despite the fact that this seems to be a tough time and there's a depression, but it seems to work. Let's go to Bun Sri. Bun Sri, you, when I first met you, you were running AMD's shared services in Penang. And when I met this very, I don't know even how to explain.
A nice word, okay.
It's a beautiful word. She's the kind of person, if I say something wrong, she'll slap me in the face. But Bun Sri is such a good friend. She managed to consolidate AMD's centers around the world into Malaysia. She managed to convince AMD worldwide to say, you don't need all these shared centers, put them all in Penang, put them all in Malaysia, and we will grow your business for you. Bun Sri, how tough was it to do that? When you talk about collaboration, you need to move jobs from around the world into Malaysia. You need to move sometimes people and leaders into Malaysia. You need to build elements of global trust when you do collaboration at that level. Talk to us about how you did that.
I would say that you have to start small. You really need to be able to crawl first before you run. So we started off as the Asia Accounting and Financial Services, and we brought all of the transaction accounting only for the entities in Asia into Penang and Thailand at that time, Bangkok. Unfortunately, within a year, I had to shut down Bangkok because of language problem. And so I moved everything into Penang. And then after 1 year, we took the Americas. But we had to prove a point that we could do Asia successfully. We had to show everyone around the world that we could do Asia successfully, we could close the book successfully, we could do continuous improvement successfully, we could run SAP successfully, and we could do everything. And we were very lucky because we had Invest Penang that was very supportive, and MDEC that was very, very, very supportive, right? So we had the government agencies supporting us and fighting our fights with us, because it's not that easy. You are taking jobs, right? So, and then I do have to say that it is only in the bad times that the shared services will grow. Because when they need to cut costs, where do they look at? They look at us in Malaysia because of the exchange rate. For every one person that they cut, let's say in the US, I could actually hire 3, but I only hire 1. So I already saved 2, right? I mean, at that time, it was at, I think it was at 3 point something, you know.
So you were bringing jobs from America to Malaysia.
Yes. And
you were making Malaysia great again.
Yeah, that was pre-Trump. Okay, so I was already doing it, right? So, okay. And then the most difficult one was Europe, actually. We took Europe after we were successful with Asia, because it's very hard to take jobs away from the Europeans. There are a lot of rules and regulations, and the records cannot leave the country. So you have to find ways of still doing it. But what I'm most proud of is we ran the entire shared services 100% Malaysian. You know, I mean, Lillian knows at the very beginning we had 1 person from Thailand, and that was because of the language requirement. But slowly that person went home, and then we never replaced with anybody from Thailand. We had 1 person from Germany, because just to get the jobs from Europe, we had to make sure we actually did that. And some of the things you do are politically inclined to make sure that they support us. So we brought somebody in from Germany, and he was here for about 2 years, and then he went home. And after that, we never had any foreigner. It was all Malaysian. And we handled every country in the world. We actually handled every country in the world, including South America, all the way here in Malaysia, without requiring the language or hiring anybody from anywhere else.
Yeah, Bun Sri, a couple of questions. When you look at bringing jobs from different shared centers into Malaysia, when you want to get people to collaborate with each other across different geographies and different time zones, what are 1 or 2 of the more important things in your mind that is required to be able to do this consolidation?
I think I learned from my Asian consolidation, because I was known as Darth Vader, because whenever I go, the empire strikes. Okay, so I think you need to build trust. I think that's a very important word, trust. and trust that whatever you do, you are going to take care of the people who are going to lose their job. Because you always have to remember, one day it will happen to us. I mean, yeah, it will happen to us. And if we want to do that, we have to do that with respect for the people. So you make sure that if that happens, there will be a place for them somewhere else. That means you have to set the playing fields right, you know, and you have to make sure that the people that you, at that point in time, of course, my people could travel, that when my people go there, they are ambassador of the shared service in Malaysia. They treat people with respect. They don't go there and say, hey, I'm taking your job, so, you know, screw you or whatever. No, you treat people with respect. You make sure you treat them as friends. And up to today, a lot of people who were let go or who went on other assignments are still our friends, you know, and we still keep in touch with them. So I think respect, trust, empathy, these are all skills that you have to have when you run a shared service. Because whether you like it or not, I mean, for all of us, I believe, you know, it's all about the people. That's where we don't have machines. I mean, during my time, there was no robots or, you know, or whatever. And even if you have, you know, artificial intelligence or robots, your process better be damn good, or else it's not going to get it right anyway, right? So yeah, Dory, you agree? Yeah. So to me, I think you have to have that human skills, and you have to be authentic about why you're doing this and how you're actually helping them. I hope I answered.
Fantastic. Well done. You know, just in hindsight, you also consolidated some data centers into Malaysia, if I recall rightly. But we don't have to go to that space. You know, there's a lot of things that Bun Sri.
Talk about that space.
We will come back to that. But I think Bun Sri has now evolved to do a lot more in the personal workspace, and I'll come around to ask her some questions about what she's doing today, because I think that is very important for a lot of what we do. But you know, that was a few years ago when Penang was doing well and Bun Sri was bringing jobs. Penang was bringing jobs into Malaysia and all that stuff. And I want to go to Datuk Lu Lilian now. You know, it's like Datuk Lu, things are tough. You know, the markets are bad and markets are not doing well, and Malaysia doesn't seem to be getting any investments in and all that. Tell us about Invest Penang. How are you guys doing today?
Michael, thank you. This is an opportunity for me to market Penang, so thank you for that. We actually did very well last year. We hit, so Penang is about 45% manufacturing and about 55% services in our GDP. Second smallest state in Malaysia. But did you know that last year, 2019, we had the highest foreign direct investment into Malaysia? So we had a 16.9 billion or almost 17 billion in total investment, and that represents 192% increase year on year. And our average in the last 10 years was about 8 billion, but in 2019 we had 17 billion ringgit in investment, and out of that 17 billion, 15 billion was from foreign direct investment. So record high, created almost about 19,000 jobs. Now that was last year, right? This year itself, for quarter one, we recorded 7.1 billion, and 6.9 billion was in foreign direct investment, and that is about 96% of the country's FDI. So we actually did very well, but again, first quarter is pre-COVID. Okay, in the GBS sector, we have continuously been doing very well and very busy for the last 5 years. So we've done very well. Now, COVID has been very quiet for us because our investors could not come in and we couldn't go out. So everybody's sitting quiet and sitting pretty. People are starting to come back now. So instead of physically visiting, we're going through more Zoom meeting, but it's got its limitation, and we can talk a bit about that later. But So why we have been doing so well? One, I think the semicon cycle has had a very good run last year. We've been attracting a lot of investment in the medical device sector as well. Not so much as glove like what Dr. Lim's Top Glove is doing, but ours is more on medical technology and medical devices. The US-Chinese trade war actually has been pretty kind to us. Malaysia, being a neutral ground, has seen a lot of diversion, supply chain diversion into Malaysia, and Penang has been has received a lot of FDI from that ground. The other reason is also because our supply chain and our ecosystem is very strong. It's been built in the last 50 years. And when I was asked to talk about this and the word hyper collaboration, and I didn't understand what hyper collaboration actually was. So I went to read about that. And then I thought to myself, actually, we've been doing this for years. We've been doing it for years. So you call it hyper collaboration. We call it businesses supporting businesses. There's been a lot of industry associations that support each other. There's been, for example, in Penang itself, there's been skill centers that's been set up that collaborates with industries to look at what skill that's required by the industry and how to meet that.
Yeah.
And all those factors, are the ones that actually made our ecosystem so strong. And that is probably one of the main reasons that we have been doing so well in terms of foreign direct investments.
That's okay. Can you give us some examples of which are the companies that have come in at the end of last year, beginning of this year? Who are these FDIs that have come into Penang?
Okay, so
how are they collaborating with the local players?
So I can only mention those that has been announced, and we have a few very, very exciting companies. Personally, very excited about the win. So one is Lam Research, and Lam Research is probably the top two biggest fab equipment manufacturer in the world. So they are setting up a innovation manufacturing distribution center of excellence here in Penang. Smith and Matthew, orthopedics implant, British company. This is going to be their first site in Southeast Asia. So also another great company, medical device. And the third one, I just want to also, and this is a personal exciting win for me, is Dexcom, D-E-X-C-O-M. They are a glucose, continuous glucose monitoring company. So it's when you are a diabetic patient, a lot of time you have to go prick your finger and then measure your glucose level. But this one is a continuous monitoring that is hooked, that is linked to an app, and you can and that gives you an alert point, gives you an alert when your glucose level is too high or too low. It's an exciting company, and that's going to be technology of the future. So they're all coming to me.
Fantastic. I mean, it looks like Penang is doing very well. I mean, compared to what I hear, when I look at a lot of the investment reports, everybody says investments are not coming in and all that. It looks like investments are coming in and doing very well in Penang. How about execution? I mean, winning FDI is one thing, but are they able to go off and start implementing what they're trying to do?
Sure. So in Penang, we are actually very strong. We're not only recording the FDI, but we're also very strong in its implementation, because in Invest Penang, we monitor them and make sure that whatever they commit, they actually go on the ground to implement. So during the COVID, so this one is really a big challenge for us. The investors can't come in, the construction people can come in. They want to do interview of the contractors, the RFP. They can't do that on the ground. They want to interview employees. They can't do. They could do it on a Zoom, but still they like to come in and actually see that the project has been implemented. So throughout the COVID session, we've been having weekly meetings with them to make sure that things are still moving.
Yeah.
And then we've been also trying to get them in through now some of the, we're trying to slowly open up borders for the expats. So we're trying to get them in. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge. We lost a few investors because some countries are already open up, we are not, so they couldn't come in. So we have lost also some new projects as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Dato. Very good information. Moving across to Johari. Johari, let's see, Johari is the only Malay on our panel. Now let's stir this pot. Let's stir this pot a bit. Johari,
Okay.
you started a Malaysian company how many years ago, Johari? Forest Interactive?
14 years ago, 2006.
14 years ago. And you've done very well. How many countries are you operating in right now?
We're physically in about 14 countries.
14 countries.
And and we operate in another 22 countries with partners.
How many people do you have?
This month we've grown to about 200, close to 200. Yeah. So I think during the pandemic when it broke out in March and then in April, it was a dilemma. Everyone around you starts asking, hey, are you cutting down? How many % of your workforce are you going to cut down? And we looked at the list and we had another 30 people or so that we need to hire. And that was the painful decision of saying, hey, we've got to expand and we've got to bring in more new faces in.
How dependent have you been on the government in your growth?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, when we started off, I think I remember back then when it was our 3rd year of operations. Of course, already with a working business model, we applied and successfully received our MSc status, and that was more than 10 years ago. So, of course, in the tech sector, getting a 5+5 year tax incentive, well, that's one of the incentive from getting MSc status from the government was a big boost in driving entrepreneurship, right, and scaling up. And of course, that's done a lot of wonders for all the other 3,000 over MSc companies in Malaysia. But I'm saying that was a big boost in itself. We're really lucky that we're in tech. So I always look at that as the biggest government kind of support. But then moving ahead, we've always maintained our businesses in the private sector, and we've been not relying anything much from the government. So it's always been a private driven approach, and not having to probably have the aspirations of some of these entrepreneurs that we see as entrepreneurs, and it's only because of these grants that they set up the company, right? So I think we've been quite successful at that model.
Johari, in your experience in working in Malaysia with the partners and all that stuff, how different are collaboration partners in Malaysia with collaboration partners overseas? Is there any difference in what they're looking for?
Are you addressing public and private or just private sector?
Both, both. Public and private as well. I mean, you've done work in Malaysia private successfully. Yeah. You've done work in Malaysian government successfully. I want to be clear to everybody on the conference call. Johari is a good friend. He's somebody that I really respect. He's done business very well. And one of my biggest grouses in Malaysia is that there are too many grantpreneurs. Everybody comes back to the government and says, give me money, and then I will do something. Johari has succeeded under his own steam. He's done very well in the country and he's done very, very well overseas. When you went overseas to the Silicon Valley and you built partners and all that, what was different over there versus over here? Why are you so different from Malaysian companies?
I think I'm not saying it's so bad here in Malaysia. I mean, in comparison, the need for the demand to establish the clear demand and supply, right? So of course overseas when we had these partnerships, there's a clear identification of what they need and how we're going to supply it. And of course we're in tech. So the past 10 years or so, there's been so much advancement new realms of knowledge, discoveries, innovation, what was before deemed impossible. So there's a lot of other countries, even the governments, they're leapfrogging that, using tech to enable, how they collaborate and partner up with. So of course, in Malaysia, we've seen a few sectors that, they're still, they don't have that common vision of what tech is all about. We're hearing government now bringing up IR 4.0, right, which has all these frameworks, right? But we've been talking IR 4.0 for the past 10 years, right? There's AR, cybersecurity, VR, cloud, and just simplifying all that. People put in the term IR 4.0, but that's actually tech, and if there is a need for it, then a lot of these partners that we have, it's easy to collaborate. Yeah.
Talk about frameworks and tools and standards. Are we ready for hyper collaboration in Malaysia?
Well, that's a big question, Michael. While I acknowledge we do have a lot of initiatives, in the education sector, whenever I raise this question to the government, the first response I get is, they can be a bit defensive, and they can say, hey, Johari, you've been doing this for the past 5 years. It's not the question of what has been done. The question will be, is it enough, right? Looking at talent, you asked for talent, right? I know of one initiative from MDEC called PDTI, or Premier Digital Tech Institution, putting together 16 top universities and educating them on tech and how to come up with all these courses to remain relevant. So in terms of the numbers, we have the right amount of talent, right? Population of 31 million. Every year you churn a lot of talents. However, the question remains, are these talents using the tools and framework properly, right? Take, for example, the cloud ecosystem, right? For everyone here on the panel, it's been more than 5 years probably that we've heard and used cloud, right? But how many of these initiatives are tailored properly? For example, you talk about talents. How many of our talents are on LinkedIn, for example, right? And we still see a lot of them struggling to have profiles, and you can't lie on LinkedIn. You have to carefully put your profile in. You got to get recommendations. It's not like some other job portal that you simply send in your CV. Or how many of us have used Udemy or Coursera for upskilling and enhancement, right? In the tech industry, everyone's on the cloud. For the rest, they're playing catch up. Or how many of us has made full use of cloud, whether it's Microsoft, Google, or Alibaba? So while there might be constant discussion on your question, when we would see the light of day, when we can see actual candidates stop printing and bringing in a physical folder for their interviews, when can we have companies who have already known about you online, there's already something that they refer online, so when you come for the interview, it's all there sync. So I think till we see that light of day.
I think blockchain will sort that thing out. So I personally invested in 2 blockchain companies myself. So let's see how that goes. Datuk Lim, I want to come back to you. Datuk Lim, everybody's looking for money, and I understand you made a lot of millionaires this year. What has Top Glove done to make all these people a lot of money? How is Top Glove collaborating? This whole explosion globally around glove and rubber gloves and all that stuff, and the fact that you cannot move between countries anymore. Has your supply chain changed? Has collaboration changed for Top Glove?
Okay, Michael, I think at the moment, the hyper collaboration is happening in the glove industries. If you were to observe over the last couple of weeks, you can see a lot of companies, they are going into collaboration to take advantage of the high demand in glove. Even the pandemic has actually brought Top Glove into a new horizon. Before the MCO, our share price is only about 6 ringgit. Today, closing at 26 ringgit and 50 cents. You see, the pandemic has actually brought in a lot of value to this industry. And as far as collaboration is concerned, if you can, a company that mentioned that they are going into glove manufacturing, I think the share price will go up. I just give you an example. Recently, 80 Systemization Berhad, they acquired Pearl Glove. Pearl Glove is a small company in Sungai Petani. And this 80 Systemization is an IT company, acquire Pearl Glove, and you know the share price gone up by 143%. 143%. So you can see that this hyper collaboration is happening down there in the glove industry, and also land, TT Jaya Land. TT Jaya Land is a property developer, and it collaborated with Rubberex. Rubberex is a glove company, and you know the share price has gone up 490%.
So lots of money, lots of jobs, everybody doing well. Must be good times coming ahead, lah. And I heard Petronas also has just gone into the glove business as well. So that's going to be a very interesting time as well.
That's why you see Petronas is now collaborating with the LG Chemical. So they are actually producing raw material to manufacture glove, nitrile. So B2W, so that is the one that they are now collaborating. So you can see hyper collaboration is now happening in this glove industry. Maybe I can just give you some example of what is Top Glove doing internally. What are we? Who are we collaborating with?
So can I just hang on to that for 1 minute? I'll come back to you in a minute.
No problem.
Just in terms of timing, Justin, I want to switch to you. The whole banking sector has collapsed, or the financial sector, but you say it's doing very well. Talk to us about digital banking. Digital banking is something brand new, and it seems to be digital banking, cybersecurity. How are companies collaborating in that space? What's happening in that space based on from a Deloitte perspective?
Hey, Michael. Sorry, I didn't suggest that banking industry is doing extremely well. It's also a tough time for them for this year and next year. All right, I think if we could share a bit more in terms of hyper collaborations in banking space, right? I think it's also not something that is new, right? If I can take an example of Secrets, right? Secrets is pretty much a centralized database administered by Bank Negara. So if let's say Michael, you have credit card with 10 banks, right? So every single bank based on your credit history, whether you've been making all the payments or you have been defaulting from month to month, all these 10 banks, which is your banker, will provide your credit history to do centralized depository, right? So if let's say you want to apply to the 11 banks, so 11 banks can then access the database. They will clearly know that how good or how bad you are as a borrower, right? So I think Secrets, I think things like Secrets and all, it will be one excellent initiative for banks to share a bit of customer information with each other, right? With the aim of they want to lend to the right customer segment, right? With a right credit history, right? So I think those are what we've seen happening in the past and see happening today. You rightly pointed up that I think there are a couple of new changes that's ongoing in the banking industry. If I could call it out, last year I spoke in a banking conference in Shangri-La organized by banking associations. Guess who was the VVIP who officiated it, right? It was our ex-Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, right? It was, and together with the Bank Negara governor, our police chief, MACC chief, IRB representative, our tax authority, right? So where during the conference itself, they launched private-public partnership, PPP, right? So with an aim to combat financial crime and money laundering, right? So think about it, financial crime, laundering, corruptions, is a lingering issue not only for Malaysia, but I think across a lot of countries as well, right? So this is one of the partnership that across some of the sectors, across, so think about tax authority, things about MACC, things about police force, things about Bank Negara, things about banking industry, they're all coming together to share similar costs, right? Right. What they wanted to do is really to curb the financial crime activities. So that's another good example where, you know, at the first glance, you know, unrelated entity who come together and join force for something great, right? The other example that you call out is around digital bank, right? So in Asia Pacific context, I think Hong Kong is at the forefront. There are about 8 digital banking license has been issued out to the applicants. In Singapore history, we have seen about 43 company form join force to file about 16 applications. There are 21 application all in total, but 5 are unknown. So in a 43 company, you would realize that they are company with all sort of activities, right? They are telco company, right? Singtel is one of them that publicly identified that gunning for digital banking license. Grab is another one, right? And there's an online gaming company. There are some e-commerce, supermarket, insurance company, car leasing company, Singapore Power was utility company, real estate developers who all come into play, who are trying to get a piece of pie when it comes to digital bank, right? So that is also think about it as a lot of these company. So maybe we'll call out an example, right? Why would hypermarket or why would a hypermarket store be interested?
Justin, come back to Malaysia. Malaysia has got 5 digital banking licenses.
Sure.
That they've introduced, and I think there's a tender open right now for companies to participate, and a whole bunch of them have participated. Do you think this will transform the Malaysian collaborative scene? That companies will work differently with each other? Will Maybank work more closely with Grab and MasterCard and all these?
Of course,
because certain collaborations have been announced here. How will this change the market?
Yeah, so I think just to be clear, I think the application is not out yet. Bank Negara is here in the midst of finalizing the final guideline, right? I think we are in the industry, we're expecting it to be out Q3, end of Q3 or Q4, right? So we definitely expecting banks to partner with non-banks when it comes to this journey. So I personally see that non-bank will be more interested as compared to bank, because existing banks, they already have some form of license in doing whatever they need to do, right? So we look at the Malaysia space, there are supermarket operators that are interested. So think about, let's coming back to a supermarket history, right? Why would they be interested in doing that? It's really they are sitting on a lot of customer history, a lot of customer shopping history that they can use that when it comes to financing, right? Or lending per se, right? So the whole concept of digital bank is really to drive a stronger collaborations between banking entity and non-banking entity to facilitate some form of upsell and cross sell, right? That will enable the business to grow.
So it does seem that as we move forward this year with digital banking coming in place, we will see different partners, different companies who are not normal banks. They will come out together and they will start collaborating to provide banking services.
Correct. And in a way they have to, because I think last year we have seen mushrooms of e-wallet operator, right? Yeah, I think on my phone there are at least 5-6 of them, and in the market, you know, there are about more than 30 of them, right? Yeah. So, and we talk about big data analytics for many years. Banks are losing customer shopping data, right? Because think about it, if I go through Grab, for example, for all my payment, Grab is the one who has all my shopping history, right? My banker, for example, Maybank, will lose everything to the e-wallet operators. So some form of collaboration by bringing back the data, right? Enabling some marketing activity, I think is the way to go.
Okay, good. So let me, I'm going to take a few questions from the public because there's quite a number of questions that have been coming in. One question to the panel, do you see digital transformation as key for hyper collaboration? Is Malaysia ready for this? I go back, let's say go back to Bun Sri. Bun Sri, you talked about what is required for hyper collaboration. You talked about trust and awareness and all that. Is Malaysia ready for hyper collaboration? Are we ready for collaboration? Is the industry ready for it?
I think I'm not just going to talk about Malaysia, but I think the question is whether the entire world is actually ready for it. And I'm going to talk about the GBS industry, okay? Just the GBS industry. First of all, for you to want to collaborate with someone, the leaders of the GBS have to get off their high horse that they know everything, because you don't. And you have to feel comfortable outsourcing. I'm even talking about myself, my previous self, my past life, okay? You have to get off your high horse that you know everything, because you don't. And like Datuk Lim says, you know, your non-core, you have to feel comfortable giving up your non-core. And a lot of times people are not comfortable giving up their non-core because it's like protecting your baby, because I gave birth to it, I have to keep it, I can't let it go. So you need to feel comfortable to let go of certain things. And I think that's the starting point. It's not so much about digital transformation. It's all about mindset. You can have the best digital transformation, but if human mindset does not change, it is not going to work. It's not going to work because they won't let go. And if humans don't let go, you can have the best technology, nobody's going to use it anyway. So you actually need to have that mindset that if I can learn from somebody else, why don't I learn from somebody else? Number two is when the GPS group actually come together, and I've seen this happening over and over and over again, is that you have to tell the truth. What do I mean that? You have to be willing to not just paint the pretty pictures and how successful you are and how great you are and what you do, but also the failures that you have gone through, so that others who are going to go through it can learn from you. You know?
mean not everything is successful? You mean we got to learn from failure?
Johari, I'm sure within the first 5 years you went through all sorts of stuff, and even Justin and even Datuk Lim, right? But people don't talk about things like that. Everybody just talk about, oh, how great I am, like this is not a cartoon, like you have to tell the truth. And if you tell the truth, right, the hyper collaboration will work if you tell the truth. If you trust, you tell the truth, right? And you actually are willing to give things up. So it's the 3 T's. Things that you're willing to give up, trust, right, and truth. I think if you have the 3 T's, and if the leaders anywhere in the world are willing to do this, I think hyper collaboration, especially with digital transformation, and transformation starts with the T too, is going to be successful. I really do believe it will, but it needs to start with the leaders actually embracing these 3 elements and making sure that it works.
Fantastic.
That's my thought.
So that's what needs to be done. Is it really being done? I mean, is Malaysia ready? And I want to come back to another question here. Datuk Lu Lilian, what did Penang do during the COVID period? What was the impact? Penang has got this very strange culture. When somebody comes from Penang, they say, I am from Penang. It's like everything must go back to Penang. They seem, I am more Penang than the rest. What did Penang do during COVID and MCO? Was there anything special that came out of the people and the companies there collaborating together?
Actually, Michael, I also don't understand why Penang Night is so Penang Night. Is the soul is in Penang. I think if you equate the song of San Francisco, you leave your soul in San Francisco. I think Penang is like that, right? So you talk to any Penang Night all over the world, they're so proud to be Penang. I don't know whether it's the island thing, but during the MCO, there were a few things that we did which actually even took me by surprise. First of all, for the first 2-3 days, we were also shocked by the MCO. Nobody was prepared for it. there was so much confusion. The policies were not clear. So everybody's like, you have to shut all the factories and then go back, right? But many of our products are essential products. Some of them were even making parts for the medical industries, and it's very, very key. And then we were all applying to MITI to go under the essential services, but I think MITI themselves were also not very clear what was essential services. So very quickly, the industrialists or in the manufacturers all in Penang, the CEOs, there were small groups, the CEO group, and then there was the HR group. Everybody was collaborating, teaching each other how to fill up application forms, how to go about by submitting the application, what constitute essential services, what was not. Even for SOPs on starting work and social distancing and going into the factories to open up and how to clean up factories and all that, people were actually sharing those videos in the WhatsApp group. So like Intel, Motorola.
So you had a WhatsApp group in Penang among the heads of the companies and organizations.
Yes.
And
so
these were competitors who were all from the same group.
Yes.
And they were sharing best practices of how to do stuff and how to help each other.
Yes. And then they were sharing resources, and then they were sharing information about, for example, I don't have enough buses, bus kilang, because you have to do social distancing in bus kilang. So what are the tour buses that were able to provide these services? And everybody was just sharing resources in the WhatsApp group.
How were they helping the government, hospitals, and people that hurt?
We started one under Invest Penang because we were all at home feeling very bored. So we started this initiative because the hospitals, the GH, especially the infectious disease and the ICUs, were very short of supplies and PPEs and also masks and all the supplies. So we formed a WhatsApp group again with all the industry. It was manned by Invest Penang, and we were just uploading requests from the hospitals. They say they need PPEs, even machines and equipments. They were loading up because they have to buy. The hospitals have to buy. They have to go through all the SOPs, the GH processes, right? And they were not quick enough. So patients were coming in and they said, "Look, I need a air diffuser, or even I need a laptop, or I need a notice board," because shops were closed and they were not able to buy notice board, printers, and laptops. And then we would upload it in the WhatsApp group, and within half a day or a few hours, somebody else will raise their hand and say, "I'm going to ship that 10 laptops to you," or notice board, and that's how the GH got itself equipped with all those very urgent requests.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to this, we talk about collaboration between companies for companies to make money. We talk about collaboration to help customers, but in reality, at the end of the day, it is collaboration in making the world a better place. And it's about collaborating and helping each other. It's about, when we talk about hyper collaboration, it is about roping in the ecosystem, the universities, the startups, the innovation, everything. And collaboration and hyper collaboration is not just about making money. It is about making the world a better place. Yeah. So I apologize. In interest of time, I'm gonna cut this short. But I sincerely thank everybody, all the panelists. I have personally learned a lot from this session, and it reinforces my belief, that we're headed on the right path. Malaysia is heading right path. Jobs are still there. Business is still growing. The spirit of humanity is still around, and everything still goes on. So with that, I'd like to close at this stage. I'd like to pass it to Anthony Raja from OM and PCOM to maybe say a few concluding words. But panelists, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael, and the panelists. So I must say that we have all learned hyper collaboration today, and it's not just seeing ecosystems as they are, but it's also about making sure that we are able to see each partner who can contribute, come together and support for the well-being of everyone as an organization, as a society, as an academic institution. From each of, thanks to Michael, Michael moderates really well. And he brought the best out of everyone, I think, from Dato Lim, sharing his experience of Envo as well as his entrepreneurship, as well as the glove and how glove manufacturers are integrating right now. Dato Lu, thank you for bringing the best out of Penang, for sharing in this outline. Joe, I got to know a little bit more about Forest and what you have done for the last from 14 years. Bunsri, you are, I would call as the mother of the GBS industry for Malaysia. So Michael and myself always discuss about you whenever we have an opportunity. Justin, thank you for giving us a perspective which is honest and direct, straightforward with your straight face and perspective. So to all of you, I think I would say this is probably a very special occasion. We have brought North, Central and South together as part of the GBS industry. And I think who better can bring it together except for Michael in moderating this. So once again, on behalf of OM, the GBS initiative of PCOM, a special thanks to each and every one of you for representing the industry the way we want it to be, as well as being very, very fair, direct, and absolutely honest to help us achieve this. On behalf of our chairman, Chair, PCOM Chairman Danny, as well as our chair for the SSS, Raymond, thank you all of you, and to our secretariat, Justin and team for making, and Grace for making this happen today. Once again, thanks to all of you and to all our participants and all our delegates. A special, we can't give a round of applause, but you can give your high fives. Thank you. Bye-bye. Justin, hope you can take a snapshot of all of our panelists, and then we can distribute a small repertoire over LinkedIn, which will come across in the next few days. We will share all your inputs. And Michael, you've got a friend. All right. Thank you. You got the shot, Justin? Ready? Get a thumbs up with everyone.
Yes, thumbs up.
Yep. Justin, you're on mute. You can say yes when you're ready. All right. Good. Thank you, everyone, for the industry. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.